Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Shelton. I am the creator of Surreal, and today, in this beautiful natural setting, we are going to be talking about forest elves. Where they came from, how I designed them, and my inspiration. Surreal would be incomplete without the forest elves. They were the firstborn of the Eldar in the beginning, and have a major impact on the world in general. They are not just the older siblings of the wood elves and the sun elves, the wild elves and the mountain elves, but they are also, in their own right, one of the most complex and interesting cultures on the face of Surreal. I love the forest elves. You're going to hear me say that a lot because I love every single one of the cultures that I've created in one way or another. The forest elves are just one of those. The idea for the forest elves is one that many authors and storytellers have used since the ages of Tolkien. It's the idea of an elven race tied very closely to the trees around them, the natural world, and the way that the natural world changes. Based very loosely on some interpretations of the Fae cultures, the High Fae or the She. The forest elves consider nature to be their epitome of all life. They worship the god of nature. They have dances and festivals and rites based around nature. In truth, you can look at just about any elven culture since Tolkien and find similarities between them and the forest elves that I created. But then here's where the mind of James takes a wild flip from the traditional. The forest elves not only have this close and intimate tie with the natural world and nature around them, very much like the traditional elves of high fantasy, but they are also extremely commercial. They are a blossoming, strong commercial presence and some of the best bargainers and money changers of the world. Why is that? What has made the forest elves this way? Well, there are elements of their history that might lead you to those answers, but in truth, the reason is that I could not get behind the idea of a culture so closely tied to nature that was that one-dimensional, that only liked nature, that treated it as the only thing in existence. Yes, they respect and they love nature, but also they kind of love and respect their money, and you can't take that away from them. I have often been accused of creating the most complicated and ridiculous names that any tabletop gamer has to remember. The forest elves are part of that reason. They don't really have any real-world corollary for their naming conventions, for the names of their places, for the names of their people. It's all made up. That's right, made up. It's intended to sound very elven, as with authors like Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, or Tolkien, or anyone who does a really good high elf in fantasy. They've got ridiculously long names that everybody else shortens, because that's just too much to say. Genevieve Drisanal, Florian Delmanas, Genrai Blackoak, Keastara Masales, Lira Solara Mantseren, Celadon, Syriac, Shelvano Seldante, Delonanan Ramaval Calastilia. When I first gave life to the forest elf people over a decade ago, and created the backbones of their society, it was before you could find, really, any good examples of stellar archery in media, in films, or anything like that. I've always loved the bow. But I hadn't really seen any great examples of people using it in movies or TV shows or anything like that. Now, you can find them all over the place. Legolas in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or now in the Hobbit trilogy. Merda in Brave. These are examples of what I would consider great forest elf archery. I have actually played a forest elf in the Surreal tabletop game. It was through a text-based solo session, but I was able to get into some of their culture and examine some of the ways that they do things, and it was really a nice experience to be able to play the game that I created. But despite that fact, Valistiares Galastanar, who was the forest elf that I played, is not my favorite forest elf character that I've ever encountered. Who is, you ask? Well, there was a character that I created as an NPC once, who played in a rather long-running characters campaign by the name of Kavi-Elidor Felden, the Geomancer, who was one of the most fun forest elves I've ever been able to play. He's a charmer, that one. Watch out. I haven't been alone in developing the forest elf culture. It wasn't all just out of my own head. I can thank specifically Carissa Emerson for her assistance in helping to flesh out the culture of the forest elves. Not only has she run a campaign set in Maravellia, their country, and filled a storyline with NPCs that were strictly forest elves and their goings-on and their doings, but also she's talked for long hours about the culture, about the different things that she feels that they might do with their different focuses. So, yeah, definitely a thank you in order there. I hope you've enjoyed our little look into the back-end side of forest elf cultural creation. I hope to see you soon in the world of Surreal. Keep following us, and